Hey coders, welcome to the channel again. So today we are going to understand that how can we find the factorial of a number using recursion in Python. So this video provides a deep understanding to this topic, and if you don't want to see the explanation part, then you can cut to this part of the video. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. We know that the factorial of 5 is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, and this is how we calculate the factorial of a number. But there is another way in which we can calculate the factorial of a number. So let's say the number is 5 and the factorial of 5 is 5 times the factorial of 4, and we know that the factorial of 4 is 4 times 3 times 2 times 2 times 1. So this is the factorial of 4, and this is also the same, so this is referring to this. So instead of writing 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, we can write 5 factorial is equal to 5 times 4 factorial. And if we have a number, let's say the number is n, so n factorial will be n times n minus 1 factorial. So in this way we can also find the factorial of a number, or this is a way in which we can refer the factorial of a number, and this information will help us to make our function that will return us the factorial of the number using recursion. So now let's try to understand that how can we find a factorial of a number using recursion. So let's say that this is v, and let's assume that we are asking our algorithm, or we can call it a method, to tell us the factorial of 5. So we are asking for the factorial of 5 from our method. So this is our method, and we are asking for the factorial of 5. So this method will have an argument which will be factorial, and we will pass 5 to that argument, and that argument means that whose factorial did you want. So we want the factorial of 5, so we will pass 5 to this argument, and this computer don't knows the factorial of 5. So but one thing that it knows is that the factorial of 5 is 5 times factorial of 4, 5 times 4 factorial. So this computer knows that the factorial of 5 is 5 times 4 factorial, and this computer don't knows the factorial of 4. So what this method will do, this method will create one more instance of itself, and it will pass 4 to its argument. So it will pass 4, and now this method is asking for the factorial of 4, and here it will pass 4. And now this computer has the same information as this computer, so this computer also don't knows the factorial of 4. And but what this computer knows is that the factorial of 4 is 4 times 3's factorial. So what this computer will do, this computer will also create one more instance of itself, and it will ask it for the factorial of 3, and this computer has also the same information as this computer, so this computer also don't knows the factorial of 3. And what this computer knows also is the factorial of 3 is 3 times the factorial of 2. So 3 times the factorial of 2, and what this computer will do, this computer will pass 2 to another instance of itself, so it will pass 2 here, and this computer also don't knows the factorial of 2. So what this computer knows is that the factorial of 2 is 2 times the factorial of 1. So it doesn't know the factorial of 1. So what this method instance will do is that it will pass 1 to another instance of itself. so it will pass 1 here, and this computer knows that the factorial of 1 is 1. This information we will provide it as the base information. So this computer knows that the factorial of 1 is 1, so this will return 1 to the method that it asked for the factorial. So this will return 1 to this method, and now this method knows that the factorial of 1 is 1, and now he has to tell the factorial of 2. So he knows the factorial of 1, and now he can tell the factorial of 2, as the factorial of 2 is 2 times 1 factorial, and the factorial of 1 is 1. So the factorial of 2 will be 2, and now he will pass this 2 to this method who was asking it for the this instance, who was asking it for the factorial of 2. Now this instance should tell the factorial of 3, and it knows the factorial of 2 is 2, and now the factorial of 3 will be 3 times 2, so the factorial of 3 will be 6, and now this instance will return 6 to this method who was asking for the factorial of 3. And now this computer will tell the factorial of 4, and he knows the factorial of 4 is 4 times 3's factorial, and 3's factorial is 6 as given by this instance of the method. And now this computer can tell that the factorial of 4 is 4 times 6, and that is 24, and now it can return 24 to this method, and this method now needs to tell us that what is the factorial of 5, and the factorial of 5 is 5 times 4's factorial, and 4's factorial as given by this instance of the method is 24. So the factorial of 5 will be 5 times 24, and 5 times 24 is 120. And now we got the factorial of 5, and now this method will return 120 to us. And now in this way, using a recursive call of this method, we can get the factorial of a number, and now we got the factorial of 5, which is 120. So now we will write that implementation in code, and for that let's first make a method def_fact, and this method will take an argument n, and let's say pass here, and now let's print the fact of, let's say, 5. So what this method will do, this method will return the factorial of the number we will pass here. So let's try to make the method. So as we know that the factorial of a number is the number multiplied by the factorial of number minus 1. So let's return n into fact of n minus 1. So what this statement will do, it will multiply n by the factorial of n minus 1, and this factorial is this method, and so this is making a recursive call to itself. So this is a recursion, and we must have a limit to this recursion. So let's say if n equal 1, return 1. So as we have seen in the explanation that the last instance of the method knows that the factorial of 1 is if n is equal to 1, means if someone asked for the factorial of 1, then that instance will return 1, means as we have seen in the explanation. So this is pretty much our code completed, and let's say this n is 5 for instance, and what this return statement will do, it's not 1, so it will return this. So n is 5, and it will multiply that by the factorial of 5 minus 1, and that is 4. So it will return 5 times 4 factorial, and with this recursive call it will reach 120, and this will print our right answer. So now let's try to run our code, and yeah, it prints 120, means our code is working. So Yeah, this is pretty much our code, and this is our def factorial method. Let's try another number. Instead of 5, let's say 7. So let's run the code, and yeah, it shows us 5040 and which is the correct answer. If you find this video helpful, then don't forget to like the video, and if you have any doubts, then you can comment down below. I will surely reply to all your comments. And thank you for watching the video.